Bonjour.
Bienvenue. Welcome to France Through the Lens. We're going to take you to all the best sights to see in this beautiful country. Let's check it out.
To begin our journey, we start right here in the center of the city at Notre Dame, French for Our Lady. For nearly 1,000 years, people have been coming here to worship. The Twin Towers of the cathedral mark it as one of the most recognizable churches in the world. The first stone of this Gothic masterpiece was laid in 1163. It took nearly 2 centuries to complete. During the French Revolution, it was desecrated, leaving the statues and windows smashed, but it was later restored to its original state. The architectural elements of Notre Dame make this building a gem. You can't help but appreciate the inspiring rosette windows. The one on the south side was a gift from the king, St. Louis IX, and dedicated to the New Testament. Below the one on the front of the cathedral, you'll see a line of stone images known as the King's Gallery. Looking up, you can't miss the 295-foot spire, which was added later as builders attempted to reach as close to heaven as possible. Notre Dame was among the first buildings in the world to employ flying buttresses. Not intended as part of the original plans, the buttresses were added where stress fractures began to appear. Today, they are synonymous with the great cathedral. And of course, so is the grand organ inside, consisting of 7,800 pipes, 900 of them classified as historical. It's every organist's dream to play on this musical wonder. With so much history and beauty, Notre Dame is an absolute must-see.
Now just behind the cathedral, at the very tip of Ile de la Cité, is a hidden treasure right in the center of Paris, the Memorial of the Deportation. It's small, but its impact is big. As you walk into the grounds, you see a stone wall inscribed with words dedicating the structure to the 200,000 French taken from their homes to Nazi concentration camps during World War II. A narrow staircase leads you down into the heart of the memorial, a fully enclosed room of walls that restricts your visibility to nothing more than the sky above. It's as if the city has disappeared and you're trapped. Stop and try to imagine just how radically these innocent lives were changed as they were marshaled to the death camps. Straight ahead is perhaps one of the most striking metaphors for the tragedy. 200,000 crystals line the wall, representing each French citizen taken. It's a bitter and powerful image, but one worth your effort to experience.
Now, to pick up your spirits, look left as you leave the memorial. You'll see a bridge with a very unique decoration.
The most interesting part about this bridge is the almost 2,000 padlocks you can find lined up and down the railings. It is said when you throw your key into the Seine River, you're locking your love into place.
And that's exactly what lovers do on bridges throughout Paris. You'll find padlock testaments to amour from around the world. Make sure to take your time to read them, or even better, to create one of your own. Just one more reminder why Paris is truly the city of love.
Now take in all the energy of the city as you head across the river to the bustling left bank.
One of the many joys of Paris is being able to wander into unique stores, like this bookstore, Shakespeare & Company.
It's English in name, but fully Parisian in spirit. You'll find thousands of books jam-packed into every nook and cranny of the store. Originally opened in 1919 by Sylvia Beach, the store became famous as a gathering place for writers like Ezra Pound, Ernest Hemingway, and James Joyce. It was purchased by George Whitman in 1951, who made it the ultimate safe haven for tumbleweeds, aspiring writers who live in the bookstore in exchange for a few hours of work a day.
I know the atmosphere always changes really easily because there's a basis of stuff, but then there's always the tumbleweeds, they're always changing, so there's different kind of dynamics.
Customers are also welcome to spend the day reading, writing, and talking about their favorite books. You'll find them in languages from all around the world. So give yourself some time to get lost in the thousands of books that inhabit this literary haven. It's your perfect destination if you love great literature.
The City of Lights is of course the cultural center of Europe. No trip to Paris is complete without going to the world's most famous museum, the Louvre. And of course its most popular resident is the Mona Lisa. With over 650,000 sprawling square feet of art, the Louvre has more than you could ever see in a day, but you'll sure have fun trying. The Louvre became a public museum in the midst of the French Revolution and has remained so ever since. In 1989, an American architect built this pyramid, and ever since, it's been a source of disagreement. Some love it, some hate it, but everyone loves what they find inside. In French, she's La Joconde, but you know her as the Mona Lisa. The world's most famous painting and Da Vinci's masterpiece, her mysterious smile always draws the biggest crowd. You'll have no problem finding her. And then stroll from room to room, enjoying masterpieces from around the world. You'll come face to face with the beautiful Venus de Milo and be inspired by Winged Victory. The Louvre can be a bit overwhelming, so be sure to plan what you want to see. With over 35,000 objects on display, you'll be surrounded by some of the greatest art in the world.
Paris can be overwhelming when seeing all the sights, so be sure to do as the locals do. Kick back and treat yourself to some of Paris's inviting cafes. You'll find them on nearly every block, and the people watching is world class. While you're there, enjoy a cup of café au lait, or if you want something sweeter, chocolat chaud. The local markets offer fine foods for everyone and a mouth-watering atmosphere of delicacies and treats. You can find anything from fresh seafood to ripe fruits and vegetables. Walk through a bustling market and grab some food on the go to enjoy in a neighborhood park, or warm up with some hot roasted chestnuts from a street vendor. Parisian life flows from the energy on the streets, so do take the time to indulge in it all. There's an adventure around every corner, so keep your eyes peeled. You never know what you'll come across. After we finish up our cup of coffee, we'll hop on the train and take you to the father of Gothic cathedrals. Weave through the many wonders of Versailles, and then we'll head back to the city to stand on the tallest structure over all of Paris.
I find inspiration all around me, from those that push me to think and to grow, to move forward, because to stand still is to fall behind. That's not my plan. I'm just getting started. My life is just beginning. My major is inspiration.
For a great day trip outside of Paris, venture out to the beautiful city of Chartres. It offers a relaxing break from the big city, but the real reason to visit is the cathedral. Built in 894, it's the best representation of a Gothic church in Europe. Old Testament characters line the doorways, peering down on you as you enter. In 1194, the original Roman cathedral was destroyed by fire. Local lords and peasants reached deep into their pockets to donate the money to completely rebuild it in just 25 years. At the back is one of the cathedral's greatest treasures, a white cloth said to be worn by the Virgin Mary. Remarkably, it escaped the fire. But what brings the most people to Chartres is the amazing stained glass. It lines more than 27,000 square feet. Some of it dates back to 1210. The windows contain over 170 illustrations of biblical stories and 13th century life. Stop and try to figure out the stories for yourself. Start at the bottom and read the stories going up, as from earth to heaven. For centuries, the church used the stained glass to teach biblical stories to the illiterate masses. You'll enjoy the challenge as well. During both world wars, members of the church took the stained glass apart piece by piece in order to keep it safe. But it's all back now, and on a sunny day, glows with a brilliance you won't soon forget.
Versailles, the envy of all European palaces, and the home of the most famous French royals of all. Any visit to Versailles starts right here at the Grand Palace, which was originally built by King Louis XIV. The fabulous golden gates greet you upon arrival, making it clear to all that the king was indeed God's chosen ruler. Or at least, that's what you were supposed to believe. Step into the courtyard and imagine the carriages rolling up the cobblestone. bringing all the most important people of the day to court. Once inside, your first stop will be the King and Queen's Chapel. Its pearl white decor is filled with gold and detailed carvings. In this very chapel, King Louis XVI married his famous teenage bride, Marie Antoinette. Touring the chateau can be overwhelming. Room after room tells the story of a luxury of life at court. Upstairs, make your way to the stunning Hall of Mirrors. It's 250 feet of extravagance. Take my word for it, pictures cannot do it justice. 17 mirrors display the reflection of the long room right along with your own reflection. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in this very space, ending World War I. Your visit will take you through dozens of rooms, including the King and Queen's bedroom. The extravagance is overwhelming, and you may be tempted to head outside, but be sure to stop in the Hall of Battles first. Massive paintings detail successful French battles. They're big enough to make you feel a part of them. As you end your tour of the palace, things only get better as you are awed by the beautiful gardens of Marie Antoinette.
Don't visit the palace without taking a stroll through one of the many breathtaking paths along these gardens.
The gardens were originally built by the great King Louis XIV and held equal importance as the palace itself. Now, if you're here in the beginning of the year, the gardens won't have quite the same impact, but you'll be able to enjoy them nonetheless. Just imagine the grand parties and festivals that French royals would have celebrated. You could literally walk for hours seeking out all of the basins, sculptures, and fountains. One of the secrets to discover is the grandiose ballroom. Royals would gather here to enjoy a variety of performances with grassy seating areas for the audience. While you can't walk in it during January, it's still well worth the search. Among the other sights to see in the gardens are the gilded fountains and statues. While the fountains don't flow until it's warm, the statues stand out beautifully against the large backdrop of green lawns and hedges. With so many secret pathways and breathtaking walks within the gardens, it's easy to get lost while strolling through them if you don't have a map. So you should allow yourself at least a couple of hours for a well-rounded experience of just how grand the gardens are.
It's a 2-mile hike, but it's worth it. A rustic village that seems to materialize out of nowhere. It was Marie Antoinette's private getaway, built just for her personal pleasure. Created in 1783, the Queen's Hamlet is complete with a mill, pond, and vineyard, all to escape the trappings of life at court. A beautiful tower stands overlooking the pond, and in the center of it all sits the Queen's house, home base for her and her guests to live out their fantasies. Tucked away in the back is a farm. At the Queen's request, animals were brought in from Switzerland.
Marie Antoinette's cottage was her dream getaway, where she often pretended she was a peasant. But the revolution was coming, and she would be leaving.
And that led here, La Conciergerie, a French Revolution prison. It was packed with over 4,000 prisoners, hundreds of them executed by the national razor, the guillotine, including its most celebrated inmate, Marie Antoinette. She was held in her tiny cell in 1793. Now, the actual location of her cell has since been changed into a chapel, but there's a small mock-up of what her cell would have looked like. In addition to the prison, tourists today can enjoy an ever-changing exhibit. On our visit, there was a wonderful exhibition on French film that allowed us to get right in the action.
This is awesome! Where are we?
These streets are named after French military leaders. So it makes sense that the meeting place of these streets, the Arc de Triomphe, is named after the most famous French military leader, Napoleon. But rather than playing a real-life version of Frogger, I think we should take the safer route through an underground passageway. Let's go.
After a military victory in 1805, Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte told his soldiers, "You will return home through the Arches of Triumph." He was true to his word, and construction for the Arc de Triomphe started a year later. Napoleon might have been small, but the idea was not. The Arc is decorated with names of military battles and officers. Find the flame near the center of the Arc. That's the tomb of the unknown soldier. The site also honors the nearly 1.5 million French soldiers lost in World War I. I hope you brought your walking shoes, because there are 234 stairs and no elevator.
Let's go see if this walking pays off. Totally worth it.
Young and old enjoy the view of Paris from all sides, including a look down the city's grandest boulevard, the Champs-Élysées.
Now, no visit to Paris can be complete without heading to our final destination. You guessed it, the Eiffel Tower. Soaring 1,063 feet above ground, the Eiffel Tower is one of the most recognizable icons in all of the world. Start out by enjoying the massive steel framework from the bottom. It's mind-boggling how it all comes together. Then make your way up to the top for a chance to see Paris in a whole new light. You are sure to be left astonished. The tower was designed by Alexander Eiffel and completed in 1889, just in time for its introduction at the World Fair. Now, believe it or not, it was originally intended to be a temporary structure, but it still towers over the city today. For 41 years, it held the title as the tallest man-made structure in all the world. And now, after 122 years, it has drawn 300 million visitors from all over the world. While it's tremendous during the day, come back at night for a completely different experience. When the sun goes down, the lights come on, bringing you a vision that you have to see to believe. It's time to say au revoir to a city of love and venture north to France's small-town charm. And then to the cemetery that overlooks the beach American troops stormed on a day the world will never forget. So stay put, you won't want to miss it.
What do you guys want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
1, 2, ready, go. Gonna pull the stops, gonna make it go. You're living on a wing and a prayer. Gonna put them things together. You know it's now or never.
Here we are, our first stop outside of Paris, beautiful Rouen, most famous for the execution site of the patron saint of France, Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake right here in the center of the city in 1431. The exact spot is marked by this silver cross right outside a church that now bears her name. After her body was reduced to ashes, the English tossed her remains into the Seine River. Today people come here to pay tribute to the teenager later made a saint. Now take a stroll down the cobblestone streets and soak in the liveliness of this wonderful city. Head towards the famous big clock, Gros or Loge, famous for having only an hour hand. Being precise clearly wasn't quite as important in the 16th century. Rouen is also famous for its cathedral, shown in paintings by the Impressionist painter Claude Monet. From 1876 to 1880, it was the tallest building in the world, reaching 495 feet. Today, it's still one of the most beautiful cathedrals in all of France. Head inside and take a walk around. The cathedral's rich history awaits. Two tombs in particular are worth the visit. The first Duke of Normandy, Rollo, is known as the Father of Normandy, and right beside him is Richard the Lionhearted, at least a part of him. Only his heart rests in the tomb. Over the last 70 years, the cathedral has sustained significant damage, including bombing in World War II. The North Tower burned and the church bells melted, leaving molten remains on the floor. In 1999, a violent storm toppled the steeple, but visitors today will find that everything has been put back together. Rouen offers Norman charm through and through and is a great first stop, but there's more ahead, so let's go.
Next stop, the mouth of the Seine and the home of Impressionism.
On your trip to Honfleur, you're going to want to start at these docks. And bring your camera. It's an image you won't want to forget.
Honfleur is a town with limitless charm. Its beauty has inspired artists such as Claude Monet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and Honfleur's own Eugene Boudin. The lean and colorful buildings are hands down the most intriguing structures along the port. At a time when homes were taxed upon their width, the clever residents of Honfleur found a loophole. They built up. 6 to 7-story buildings weave throughout the entire town. At the edge of the basin, look down the line of houses until you come to one that looks like it doesn't belong. It's called the Lieutenants. This structure was built in the Middle Ages, and it's the last of a medieval rampart. It's hard to see it now, but it was the fortress that controlled the entrance into the port and town. Just on the next street, you'll find St. Catherine's Church. Built in celebration of the end of the 100 Years' War, this church was erected completely out of wood. As you walk in, you'll notice something very different. Two parallel naves run the length of the church. It's one of just a few in the world. Now look up at the ceiling. You'd swear it's an upside-down arc. The wooden arches make it clear that the builders were ship carpenters. The only part of the church not made of wood is its bell tower, a separate building altogether. Parishioners were concerned it would act as a lightning rod, and built it apart to avoid losing the church to fire. After leaving the church, just go ahead and get lost in Honfleur's streets. Appreciate the fascinating homes and shops, and all of the town's friendly people. Be careful though, you might just fall in love with the place and never want to leave.
A short drive through the roads of Normandy takes you to another can't-miss site. Whether you are a World War II historian or not, the American Cemetery is a powerful reminder of the sacrifice that was made for freedom. It contains 9,387 hallowed graves of American soldiers that gave their lives, most during the D-Day invasion. Although you'll be tempted to head right down to the cemetery, there's an informational, powerful, and free museum on site that you should see before you do. It chronicles the soldiers' journey on that dreary day, June 6, 1944, through touching videos, artifacts, and stories. You can even search for friends and loved ones lost at war and buried in American cemeteries. You could easily spend a couple of hours here. When you make your journey down to the path to the cemetery, overlooking Omaha Beach itself, you'll find 3 Medal of Honor winners and 33 pairs of brothers buried side by side among thousands of their comrades. Take a close look at this cross. It bears the date June 6, 1944, a date which you can find marked on thousands of crosses here in the cemetery. A memorial bronze statue stands looking out over the cemetery. The 22-foot monument, the spirit of American youth rising from the waves, recalls all that was lost and given in this noble place. Take the time to wander the grounds and pay your respects. Some of the most notable buried here include General Theodore Roosevelt Jr., as well as the 2 brothers Lieutenant Preston and Sergeant Robert Nyland. You might know the Nyland brothers as the inspiration for the Academy Award-winning movie, Saving Private Ryan.
Omaha Beach, right here on the shores of Normandy, where thousands of Allied troops crossed the English Channel and stormed these sands on a day just like today.
While the shoreline seems calm today, you can't step on the beaches without envisioning the conflict that happened on June 6, 1944. The D-Day invasion was supposed to begin on June 5th, but Mother Nature did not cooperate, and thus June 6 would be etched in history. The Allied troops began hitting the beaches of Normandy at 6:30 a.m. In just one day, Hitler's famed Atlantic Wall would be breached. Walk on the beach and it's as if you could still hear the bullets flying through the air and imagine soldiers pushing forward at all costs. Footprints in the sand are a stark reminder of the sacrifice that the Allied forces made. Head on down to the beach at Arromanches. You will see the remains of Mulberry Harbor, built by the Allied forces and used days after the invasion. In all, 10,000 men died as part of the single largest military operation in history. Now, if you come in the winter, you'll have the beaches to yourself, but be prepared, most of the town will be closed, but nonetheless, it is still worth the trip. Next up, we take you to the impressive home of King Henry's mistress, sip the finest French wine, and explore the mind of Leonardo da Vinci. Stay tuned.
I find inspiration all around me, from those that push me to think and to grow. To move forward, because to stand still is to fall behind. That's not my plan. I'm just getting started. My life is just beginning. My major is inspiration.
It's a pilgrimage you won't soon forget.
For over 1,000 years, people have been coming here to Mont Saint-Michel, and it's easy to see why. A dramatic pinnacle of rock seemingly rising out of nowhere.
The breathtaking abbey was built in the beginning of the 6th century when the Bishop of Avranches heard the voice of the Archangel Michael instructing him to build. And that's exactly what he did. The monks attempted to ensure that their church was as close to heaven as possible. You may find yourself panting as you weave up flight after flight of stairs to reach the Hilltop Abbey. But don't worry, the payoff is more than worth it. As you explore, you'll be transported back in time. It's a Benedictine treasure of medieval monastic life. And the question you won't be able to shake: how'd they get all of this up here? Wander through and discover the charming cloister in the center. These peaceful gardens were where the monks would come to reflect, pray, and read the Bible. If shops and cafes are what you are searching for, make sure you take a stroll down the Grand Rue, the only street that wraps the island to the top. It bustles with retail and food, selling everything from fake plastic swords to...
I'm eating mussels.
This time of year, mussels are a favored plate you won't want to pass up.
They may not be the most pleasant thing to look at, but man, are they delicious. Still good as the first.
For its sheer beauty, good eats, and historic value, it's no wonder over 3 million visitors make their way here every year. Our next stop, the Loire Valley, is Chateau Central. The perfect base for exploration is in the city of Amboise. But our first stop is right here at Clos Lucé, the home of the genius Leonardo da Vinci. France's Renaissance king, Francois I, invited Leonardo here for the last 3 years of his life. There is even a tunnel connecting the palace to Da Vinci's home, so the king could visit as he pleased.
Leonardo da Vinci was inspired by nature, and the models you can find inside are a testament to that.
Upon entering Clos Lucé, you'll discover an impressive fireplace and kitchen. You'll be graced with the presence of a replica of the Mona Lisa on the first floor of the house. But venture downstairs and it will feel as if Da Vinci never left. Take a look at the models of his masterpieces, complete with videos, showing you how far ahead of his time he was. Weaponry, flying machines, and even the first automobile, he conceived of them all. You'll be surrounded by the inventions of arguably the most brilliant man in history, and you'll be in awe. Now take a walk out into the gardens and enter what seems like another world. Leonardo loved nature, and he spent his time sketching and inventing outside. Reconstructions of his inventions come to life in this adult-sized playground. Take a ride in an early tank, learn how to paint 3D objects on canvas, or just enjoy the beauty of this natural getaway. It's a great way to spend an afternoon and soak up Da Vinci's genius.
Just a few-minute drive from Amboise will take you to another spectacular site.
From chateau to chateau throughout the Loire Valley, we delve into the most beautiful and unique of all, the Chateau de Chenonceau.
It's the gem of this region and one of the most elegant castles found in the French countryside. Nicknamed the Ladies' Castle, this chateau's history is just as interesting as the site itself. King Henry II gave this castle to his mistress, Diane de Poitiers, but after he died, the Queen Catherine de Medici kicked her out and claimed it for herself. Chenonceau is built right over the Cher River. Historically, this river was the border between Free and German France back in World War II. You'll cross over 3 moats on the way to the front doors. Once entering the castle, you'll receive a free booklet that describes the various rooms inside. These rooms are filled to the brim with gorgeous tapestries and Renaissance fireplaces. When you walk into Diane de Poitiers' bedroom, the fireplace contains a unique engraving. It's the initials of Henry II and Catherine de Medici, H and C, which when intertwined, they look like they form the letter D of his mistress, Diane de Poitiers. How ironic. Some notable rooms include the chapel, which survived the vandalism of the Revolution. The gallery, which during its prime was a magnificent ballroom but turned into a hospital during the First World War. And the remarkable kitchen, which during the 16th century was top of the line and strategically located near the river to avoid kitchen fires. In warmer months, you'll want to enjoy the gardens of the estate, but until then, focus instead on the labyrinth, located halfway down the main promenade as you leave the castle. You'll feel like a mouse in a maze as you race others to see who can reach the middle first. At Chenonceau, history and beauty is everywhere, and it's one of the essential stops on your trip to France. What better way to finish off a visit to the picturesque Loire Valley than a glass of wine with a lovely finish of its own? We're headed to the Cave de Producteur, a must-see and a must-taste. The wines of Vouvray are made from the Chenin Blanc grape. They are the most common wines that you'll find within the Loire Valley. If you're a fan of red wine, you might want to go elsewhere because at this winery, everything is white. The soil of this region is perfect for the Blancs, so they wisely stick to what they do best. All this wine needs is a home to mature. So how is all of this done? Take the tour and find out. There's over a mile of underground caves holding all of the wine, nearly 4 million bottles. It's a bit too dark for our camera to see much, but trust me, it's worth the time to learn firsthand how it all works. Sample some of Vouvraye's wine with your friends and decide for yourself which is best. You'll be hard-pressed not to take a bottle home.
Well, we hope you enjoyed a little taste of France through the lens.
Until next time.
Santé!